Do you miss me too? Maybe I can let it go. I won't miss you, won't miss you. I won't miss you, won't miss you. I won't miss you, won't miss you.
Like massive bit rate, and let's see if YouTube stops freaking out on me as it is doing at the very moment. So again, let's get a little hello in the chat room. I realize it's not my normal time. There's just not that many people here, but come on in. You guys can do it. The system is thinking. It is trying to stream. There we go. Now there's a better rate coming through. Let's see if YouTube catches up and decides that it likes this better. It's interesting because last time we did a stream from the Hyperdeck, from the web presenter, I did set it to that higher bitrate, and YouTube seemed to really like that. This time it is not liking that. So who knows? Who knows? But I am streaming at the optimal data rate now. So come on, YouTube, quit yelling at me and let's just get this show on the road. Let's see here. Back to the chat. Chris W. I wonder, the chat is so quiet. I'm wondering if there is actually a problem with the stream. Make sure it's public. It is public. It is public. I am on the right time and the right channel. Let's see here. You hearing me okay out there? Oh, you see me now. Okay, Chris, good. Okay, I think it was just the bit rate was too high. It's funny because now I'm sending, this joy of live. I am sending a lower bit rate, but for some reason YouTube thinks it's still a high bit rate. Let me just do a refresh on here and see if it's better. Mr. Tyler Brown, there we go. No ringer is getting there. It started out stuttering, but looks much better now. Okay, good. So let's just bring these chats up on the screen and make sure that it's all looking good. So there we go. Tyler says it's working for you. No Winger says it started stuttering, but it's smooth now. Michael says it's working now. Good. We're there. So I think it's interesting because last time we did this, I actually did do a higher bit rate. I pushed it up to the, what was it called? The Hyperdeck Low, which was like 12 megabit, and YouTube was doing great with that, but this time it doesn't want to. Interesting. Anyway, it seems to be better now. It's actually still complaining. Now it's telling me my bitrate is 6 megabit, which it is. It's higher than recommended. I wonder if I need to reset my streaming key. Oh, well, whatever. Who cares? Okay, in case you missed what I said earlier because it was stuttering through, what I want from you guys, the live audience, is to submit your raw photos. There is a Dropbox link in the chat. In fact, let me just paste it in again in case for some reason that didn't show up. There's a Dropbox link in the chat. Here it comes. And what I want you to do is go to that channel, go to that Dropbox link. It's a Dropbox request. And drop in your worst raw photos. And they have to be raw. I can't use JPEGs or TIFFs. The whole idea here is raw. Give me photos that have really high ISO and are super grainy. Give me photos that are off of older cameras that weren't that high of ISO, but because they're older cameras, they're grainy. Give me photos that have really bad chromatic aberration because you shot it with kind of a cheap lens. Adapted lenses don't count here. It does have to be a native lens, or at least an electronic lens, so that the camera and the lens combination can be known in the file. That's part of how this whole thing works. Just anyway, photos, raw photos that you're like, oh, man, I wish this was better. Not because you didn't light it well or compose it well, but because of the actual just quality of the image. And let's see what we can do in PureRAW. That is the objective today. I'm going to get that photo opening up. Randy D says, coming through, let's get the chat back up. That's always fun to have. Coming through in Dripping Springs, Texas. I can't say I've ever heard of Dripping Springs, Texas, so welcome, Dripping Springs, Texas. Excellent. All right, let me get that Dropbox folder open on my system. And let's see here, where's my Dropbox? There it is. And what did I call the folder? That's always a good question. So sort by modified file requests. There we go. Pure raw test. There we go. And there's nothing in there yet. My goodness. I couldn't submit a request for this earlier. I would have loved to have done this, a couple days in advance, but the product was under embargo until 6 a.m. this morning. So at about 6:30, I put out the request, and obviously most people are still sleeping. Anyway, we'll get them. We will get some of these files. In the meantime, if you haven't yet seen the demo video that I did, that is a complete workflow video, I'm not going to play it now. It's actually pretty long. It's about 20 minutes long, but it goes through all potential possible workflows of how to integrate PureRAW. So let me, since this is possibly the first time any of you have ever heard of this and don't know what the heck I'm talking about, allow me to explain. Allow me to elaborate. So PureRAW is the newest product from DxO. DxO are the makers of PhotoLab. That is the most known product that they created. And they are also the current owners of the Nik collection. The Nik collection, as you may recall, goes back like 20 years, plugins for Photoshop, amazing, amazing plugins. They were acquired by Google at some point, and then quite a few years ago, DxO acquired that. And so the Nik collection is now in DxO's pocket, and it is, as always, an awesome, awesome tool. So anyway, PhotoLab being their kind of primary in-house developed app. And PhotoLab claim to fame, what makes it really special is the way it handles raw files, the way it processes raw files. It creates DxO creates a unique profile. It's called a DxO optics profile for pretty much every camera and lens combination possible. Now, obviously there are cameras that are missed or lens combinations that are missed, but there are actually over 60,000 lens profiles, 60,000 individual files that are available for potential camera and lens combinations. That's kind of a lot. And what these profiles are unique corrections for that exact camera model and lens model, even at various focal lengths, if it's a zoom lens, that are developed in the DxO labs. And what they do is they have this whole process where, it's a lab environment where they've got a very precise setup with lighting conditions and fine lines and focus marks and all the things that you would expect out of a test photo, where they shoot the cameras, shoot raw photos on there, and then go through their process of correcting the chromatic aberration, removing the noise, doing all the things to make the image as good as possible. But this is the beauty of it, is unlike most software, unlike most raw decoders that rely on kind of a generic process, these are unique per camera lens combination. So the first time you load up a photo into PhotoLab, if you've never brought in a photo of that was shot on that camera lens before, you'll get a little thing that pops up that says, hey, we need to download that file, and it'll download the file. They're always really small, and then it's ready to go. So that's part of DxO PhotoLab. The other part of what is now in PureRAW is the denoising. So DxO's denoising algorithm called Prime has been around for a while and has been largely considered the best, if not one of the best in the industry. Prime was just very, very, very good. Last year with PhotoLab 4, DxO launched something called Deep Prime. It was their next generation of the Prime algorithm, and it was insane. It was just absolutely incredible. So now you've got this app, DxO PhotoLab 4, that has the best raw processing and denoising on the market, and it is a full photo editor. The thing is that a lot of people are like, okay, that's cool and all, but like I use Lightroom and I'm not about to change. I use Capture One and I'm not about to change. People didn't want to go to PhotoLab. So what DxO has now done is taken just the raw decoder and the denoising component of that and put that into a standalone app called PureRAW. So PureRAW does one thing. It takes your raw photos in, processes them with its magic sauce, and then spits out a DNG file. That DNG is still a raw file, which means when you take that DNG into Lightroom or into Capture One or whatever, you still get all of the advantages of that app. In fact, you even get their color processing, and this is a really important part of this. So I know a lot of users who are using Capture One, for example, use it because of the color processing. They love the tones that they get out of Capture One. Using PureRAW does not remove that. PureRAW is not adding any color profiling to the photo. It's all about correction, technical correction, lens, chromatic aberration, lens distortion, noise removal, and so on. But the color profile is still applied by the host app that you bring it into. So into Adobe Camera Raw, into Capture Raw, into Apple Photos, into whatever app you bring it into. So this is the really cool thing about it. You still get everything that you've always loved about the app that you use, plus you get the advantage of what is now available in, was available only in PhotoLab, but is now available as a standalone app in PureRAW. So that's how this whole thing works. That's the basics of it. So let me just take a quick look at the chat. Again, oh, no new chats coming in, but I see there are some raw files dropping in. That's fantastic. So yeah, let's just do this. All right, I'm going to set up a couple things on my screen. Let's get this arranged so we can do this properly. Let's see here. I will make this nice and big. Let's sort this by. I will share my screen momentarily. I'm just going to kind of clean up this photo in here. Awesome. We're getting some great photos coming in. Oh, and thank you guys for putting your names in front of the photos. I didn't even ask you to do that, but that is awesome for the 3 of you that have done that so far. Jason, Johnny, and Tim, you guys rock. That's a great point. Please do put your name in front of the file just so I can call out whose it is when we open it up. Alrighty. Oh, screen sharing. I need to set that up over here. Let's go back to this. And I think I got in here like 20 minutes before we went live, so I didn't quite get everything set up, but where are we looking for? Where's my screen? There it is. Screen source. Screen source. We are going to set this to a different screen. Well, that's interesting. Why can't I change that? Why can't I change the monitor? Weird. Why can't? Okay, I guess I have to have a new one. Sorry, my preset for the screen sharing, I normally share a different monitor than I'm going to work on today. And I'm not sure. I thought I could just change it, but apparently I can't. So pardon me while I add a new source here. And capture area is going to be the XDR. There we go. And that is now set. Okay. So that means my shortcuts aren't going to work. Sorry, give me a moment here. I do apologize. I don't know why. Oh, interesting. Once you set it, I wonder if I can change it this here. Sorry about this, guys. I did not expect to have to do this. I thought it was just going to be automatic. All right, that's okay. We're going to do this. Change this to screen source 2. There we go. Now it'll work. Okay. So now let's just make sure this works. If I do this, yep, and I'm off centered. There we go. It's trying to find my place here. There is that. Okay, good. So that is all working properly now as expected. Righty ho. So let's get, let me get me out of the way and let me bring up PureRAW. Oops. Oh, and my screen just went. Why did that just happen? Clearly, I am having a mental breakdown today. Let's reset that. Why did my screen suddenly decide to go dark mode? Weird. Anyway, sorry, I'm on like 3 hours of sleep. I'm tired. Where did PureRAW go? I know it's already running. There she is. There we go. Alrighty, so let's close this thing up. So here's the process. I'm going to hide me. It's get me out of the way. You don't need me. Here's the process. You add your photos from the Finder. That is one way of doing it. You can do this actually a lot of different ways. And to see all the different workflows available, I definitely encourage you to watch the workflow video. It is linked down below, and it's already up on my regular YouTube channel. Don't go watch it now. Watch it after this if you haven't seen it already. But there's kind of the key thing about this is that you can make this work in any workflow that you've got. You can make this work if you're working with any other app. Whether you want to handle individual images or you want to handle all of your images, whether you're using an asset management tool or not, there's a way to make this work into your workflow. I'm going to kind of go after a more basic approach here and just take these and open them up into, we'll go into Lightroom Classic because that will allow me to do a side-by-side comparison of each photo before and after PureRAW in a kind of a good way. So anyway, let's just do this. All right, I'm going to take these 3 photos here that I've got so far, drag them in. PureRAW pops up and it says it needs optics modules for a Canon 90D with a 24mm lens, and it looks like whatever the other photo is, I must have already had that module in place. So let's see, we'll save that. And oh, somebody sent me a DNG file. So hold on a second. Sorry, buddy. What do you need? My kid's in here today.
I need your help.
Oh, okay, guys. I'm super sorry. Give me a second. Johnny Dis, I can't use a DNG. It has to be a native RAW file, not one that's already been converted. Give me a native RAW file. I'll be right back. Sorry. What? Maybe quickly. It's kindergarten day here. Okay, so let's see here. Let's start with Mr. Tim Corsi's file. So here's the process. I've dragged this in. We saw that it already, it prompted me to download the optics module for whichever photo it was. And from here, I am basically ready to process. This is it. This is all there is to do. So I would click on the Process Photos button. It pops up and I have these choices here where I can choose what method of denoising I want. You can do the basic denoising, prime, or deep prime. Needless to say, deep prime is kind of where we want this to be. I really need to figure out my stance here. Deep prime is where we want this to be. This is what's going to give us the best denoising, so that's what we're going to use. Your output format, JPEG or DNG. DNG is going to give you the raw file. It is a raw file within a raw file, if you will. If you go to JPEG, then you won't be able to do any of your raw work later on, so clearly we want to stick with DNG. Excuse me. And then there's a interesting thing, the destination folder. Where is the new file going to go? By default, a new folder called DxO will be created at the root level of wherever your files are, and that's fine, or you can set a custom folder. So everything at default, I click process. It goes pretty quick. Excuse me, at least it goes pretty quick on my machine because it's a rip and roaring Mac Pro. PureRAW is really processor intensive, and so it may take a little while, but it's totally worth it. All right, popping up. So now this is done, I can just go to the Finder and view the file there. I can just go straight to export, but I can also view the results within PureRAW. Now, here's the thing about the results in PureRAW. Excuse me, sorry about that. We are going to see, if it's a high ISO file, it doesn't look like this one was, we're going to see what is this, 1600, well, mediocre high, maybe it's an older camera, with no denoising at all. So if you open up a high ISO file in here and when you on the left, you see it and it's like more noisy than you've ever seen, that's because you're used to seeing it with a base level of denoising applied. That's just how raw processors usually work. What you're seeing in here is a total removal of raw processing, of denoising on the left, and then the new one on the right. So let's see what we've got here. This is obviously not a photo I've seen before. If I zoom in 1:1 on here, we can see it's quite dark. Oh yeah, okay, now we're really seeing it. Look at the noise here in the shadows on the left versus on the right. That is actually, this is really remarkable. That is a great sample photo. Fantastic. Oh yeah, that's beautiful. Hey, let's go over here to the bridge area here. Look at that. That is fantastic. Look at the difference there in the bridge. The amount of sharpness on the, not bridge, whatever, the dock, the amount of sharpness on there versus on here, the chromatic aberration, there's huge chromatic aberration happening on this side. It's not happening here. That is lovely. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I want to send this photo off to Lightroom. So, and in fact, actually, let me just go ahead and process the other one too, and let's just see what this one is. From Jason Papa something. Sorry, the name's clipped right there. Let's see here. Let's grab that one and process that as well. While that's processing, I will bring up. Can I bring up my chat over this? Do I have that set up right? That is on a lower layer, so I can't. Let's just go back to. Let's go back to this, and then I'll bring up the chat and let's see what else is going on in here. Oh, nothing. Just a winky face. Okay. All right, back to this, and what I want to do next, let's view the results of this one too. And let's go, oh wow, that's another great example. Look at the brick. Look at the brick, that is fantastic. You almost have, it's just mush over here, but look at the details in the brick that we have on the right. That is a really great sample photo. Oh, thank you for submitting this. This is brilliant. Huge difference. Okay, so there's the difference from the raw itself. Let's now go ahead and take both of these into Lightroom. So I'm gonna, with those both selected, I choose Export To. I'm gonna send them to Lightroom Classic. And I'm also gonna choose to export the original RAWs. You don't have to do that, but that allows you to have both of them side by side in there, which makes for a great demo. So I'll export that. It's gonna launch Lightroom Classic. And we're going to see in here it's just the standard import dialog from Lightroom with those images selected. So let Lightroom finish launching. And sorry, I didn't already have Lightroom running. There we go. Okay, so we're seeing in here the images selected. There's the two deep prime DNGs and the raw, the original raw files. They're all selected, ready to go. This one we haven't dealt with yet. Well, it's the DNG. So again, Johnny, if you can get me a straight raw, not a DNG, that would be awesome. So let's take those in, click on import. And let's go to our library. Here we go. Current import. There they go. And 4 photos. Excellent. Okay, so now, pardon me, let's take another look at this. This is the, this is a great example. This is the DNG file. And if I click on here, we're going to see the original raw just processed by Lightroom. So let's go to the develop module and we're going to do a split screen here. And I'm going to take the processed one on the left and leave the other one on the right. And so this is where I can do a comparison of what you can do with Lightroom on its own versus what you get out of the out of PureRAW. So let's go in and do some noise reduction on here and see what happens. I'm going to take the noise reduction slider, and so I'm affecting the photo on the right. I don't have to go very far at all before we lose all the detail in there. Maybe increase the contrast and the detail a little bit. But yeah, it doesn't take long before we're just losing all detail on the right. That's pretty remarkable. Let's try doing some basic exposure work on here. So if I just go and do, let's see here, bring up the exposure a little bit, maybe bring up my shadows a little in here, and zoom back into that. Probably a little bit bright. Pull it down. It's meant to be kind of dark and mysterious. I want to take these same settings. So let me go to this. I'm going to take, with that photo selected, I'm going to hit Command C to copy. I'm going to copy everything except for the lens correction. So here's a really interesting thing to know. You can copy and paste your settings from one photo to another, obviously, in any app. I'm going to show you a neat workflow thing, perhaps. We'll see if I get to it in Lightroom. But if you have applied lens corrections already to your RAW file, you don't want to reapply those to the new DNG that came out of PureRAW because it already has lens correction applied to it. So you would be effectively doubling up on the lens correction. So if you've already done some work, you've already done lens correction, and then you decide to try it in PureRAW and you want to copy and paste your adjustments over, make sure you leave the lens correction behind. I hadn't applied any here, so it actually didn't matter that was selected, but whatever. So that's all selected now. I'm going to hit copy, go over to this image here. Actually, I have to get out of reference mode to do this, don't I? Let's go back to this one and hit paste, and it pastes that in. So now let's go back to our split view again. And I would say, actually didn't even need to lighten this one up as much. I could break that off a little bit. I mean, yeah, the difference there is really quite good. And the bricks are really a great place to see it. Just look at the detail difference on the left versus on the right. The sharpness in there. That is really, really great. Okay, so that's one fantastic example. Thank you very much. Let's look at another one. Let's go for this photo. There's the original RAW on the right, and we'll bring in the DNG out of PhotoLab on the left. Let's go into those dark shadows of the trees because that is a really, really good place to see these. Yeah, let's get the same spot in there. There we go. That is a really remarkable difference, and I do need to bring the exposure up on this. Let's bring that up a little bit. I wish I could adjust the exposure of this one. Can I swap these? No, there's no like swap command. Darn, that would be handy. Let's see here. If I just load, there we go. I'll just load that there. Bring up the exposure the same amount. Okay, that looks pretty good. All right, so I'm gonna go back to the RAW. Okay, so now we're seeing, again, the pure RAW image on the left, the native RAW image on the right. I mean, there's just no question how much more noise there is on the right. That's pretty awesome. So now let's go into Lightroom's own noise reduction tools and try and reduce it. The way I like to demo this is to try and get rid of the same amount of noise. So I look at flat areas, and I guess that would be the same layout. I look at flat areas and I try to find a easy to identify amount of noise on the left, and then try and match it on the right. So if I take it all the way down, we can see obviously very, very noisy there. If I bring this up, if I look at, say, these areas here, then we can see a pretty even amount of noise. If I bring it to right about there, it's about the same amount of noise. But you can see a massive difference in the sharpness and the quality. Let's bring up the contrast a little bit more on the right. And that's about probably as good as I'm going to get on the right versus what's on the left. And that is a truly remarkable difference. I love it. I love it. This, let's see if the chromatic aberration around the trees is, what happened to the rest of the photo? That's weird. Whoa. Oh, this has got a crop on it. Why does it have a crop on it? Let's get rid of the crop. That's bizarre. Exit the reference view. That's okay. You can exit the reference view. And, oh, I see. It had a crop. It was shot with a crop, and it picked that up in the metadata. Okay, so we're out of there. Let's go back into the side-by-side. And I wanted to look and see if there's chromatic aberration around the trees at the top. We're not actually getting any. I guess the fog here worked in your favor and helped to eliminate some of that chromatic aberration that would typically happen around fine detail like this and a really bright background. So you kind of lucked out in that regard. But yeah, okay, awesome. Huge, huge difference in there. I think you will agree. That is pretty remarkable. All right, back into the chat real quick. Let's see what's going on. Paul Young, missed the first bit. Manual lens is okay. So no. You need to have a lens that is identifiable by the camera. And the reason for that is the way this whole thing works, the back-end magic here is the DxO optics modules. An optics module is a unique module that is created per camera and lens combination. If the camera doesn't know what the lens was because it's an all manual lens, then there's no way to identify what corrections to put on it. So this only works with traditional electronic lenses, traditional lenses that communicate to the camera what the lens was. So sorry about that. We do need to have raw files, by the way, as well. Jason says, can I send you the edited photo? Yeah, so that file request area that I gave you guys, are you able to see the photos that are in there? Or is it kind of like an invisible Dropbox to you? If you can see the photos that are in there, I will simply drop this back in. If not, I'll find some other way to do it. Let me know. I don't even know what it is you guys see with that. Okay, so let's see. Let me go back and see if there's any other new photos to look at. No, we haven't got any new photos. So again, I am looking for photos to demo with. I want to see your highest ISO, noisiest, most chromatic aberration, your favorite raw photos that you wish were a lot better. That's what I want to see, and just drop them into the Dropbox link. Let me put that into the chat one more time here. Not that you can't scroll up and find it, but let's see here. Where's my chat? There it is. And okay, Jason says it's only a file upload link. Okay, let's see here, Jason. Which one was yours? Yours was the castle photos. So I will, Jason, just hit me up on Twitter afterwards at PhotoJoseph. Just DM me on Twitter, and I will send you Dropbox links to this later. Send me your email address via DM on Twitter, and then I will get that off to you. No problem at all. Super. Okay. Let's see here. While we're waiting to see if we get any more photos in, let's take a look at a different workflow. Let me show you the workflow if you are using Lightroom and you want to, or really this applies to any app, and you want to take that raw file and process it in PureRAW. So let's see here. Let me go back. We'll go back to my screen on here, and I'm just going to get out of the compare view here. Go back to the library and go back to an existing photo. Okay, so this is an existing collection of photos. This is the same thing I did in the recorded demo, but I'll do this with a different picture. Let's see here. What would be another great example for this? I don't even know. Let's see what happens with this one. I have not processed this photo through PureRAW, so I have no idea what will happen with it. Is that a good one? Let's maybe this one. Should I do that one? I don't know. Doesn't really matter. Doesn't really matter for the workflow demo. All right, we're just going to do this one of the snowboarder. Okay, so let's just say, let's actually start with the idea that I am not. Whoa, that was big. Why isn't that? Let's see here. We need that to be small. There we go. Let's start with the idea that I'm not in Lightroom, because Lightroom has a really cool technique on how to get your photos from Lightroom to PureRAW. It's kind of an accident of Lightroom, but it just works. But let's assume that you're not using Lightroom, and I'll show you a method that will work with no matter what asset management tool you're using. And that is simply to reveal in Finder the original raw file. So if I want to process this file, you can see, where's the data? There we go. It's a raw file. If I want to process this in PureRAW, I need to find that raw file and open it in PureRAW, right? That's pretty logical. So if you right click on, this is going to go for basically any app, there should be either right clicking or from the file menu, a show in Finder. So here I'm going to do show in Finder. I do that and it opens up and there is the original photo in the Finder. So now that I've got that available, I just need to drag this into PureRAW. Always a challenge to do on a small screen. Let me make this a little bit smaller here. There we go. So I would just take that and drag it into PureRAW. That's it. That's all I have to do is just drag and drop that in. Looks like I already had the optics module needed for that file, so it didn't prompt me to download it. Now that that's in there, I'll process the photo. So that would have worked with any app, right? Any app that you're using as an asset manager, reveal in Finder, and off you go. So that's one way to do it. Or let me clear these out. We'll start from scratch here. Let me show you the really cool thing that you can do with Lightroom. So with Lightroom, there's that photo. I'm going to click and drag the thumbnail while I'm mouse down. I'm going to Command Tab or Alt Tab over to PureRAW. I'm actually assuming this works on Windows. I really hope it does. And drag and drop it in. And Lightroom has brought in the raw file. So when you drag and drop from Lightroom Classic, it actually sends out the raw file, which is so perfect for this because that means I don't have to do a reveal in Finder. I just drag and drop it over. Pretty slick. So let's process this photo. I'll leave it all at the defaults. And then once that's done, we'll take a look at it and bring it back over again. So Again, waiting for your raw files. I want more raw files. Give me more of your raw files. All right, processing done. What do I want to do next? We're just going to go straight into export. I'm not going to preview it in here. I'm going to export it as a Lightroom Classic. I'm not going to also export the original raw file because the original raw file is already in Lightroom. Makes sense, right? So I hit export. It brings up the import window with that selected. Click import. And I think this is important to understand too. This process of moving a file from one side to the other, from one app to the other, is not, there's no plugin. There's no like weird handoff or some special architecture. It is literally just triggering the import dialog in Lightroom Classic in this case. In Apple Photos, if you do it, it actually just adds it to the database. You don't even have the import. It's just suddenly there. Pretty slick. Okay, so this has been added in. Now, this is kind of a fun little part of the demo. First of all, I'm looking at the photo by itself on here because I'm looking at the previous import. We can see that right there. Can you see that I'm not covering it? Yeah, you can see the previous import here. Here, let me just move this to the other side. Nope, that's not the wrong one. Where's my, oh yeah, there we go. Let's move it over there. If you look down here, can I zoom in? Do I have a setup? I don't have a setup to zoom in. There's the folder that I started with, the winter to spring. This DxO folder has the new image that was just brought in. I have on here this thing that says show photos and subfolders enabled. So when I click on this original folder, I see both of my photos side by side on there. Pretty cool. So now I'm getting both of those side by side. Now, interestingly, all of the adjustments, we can see some difference in the distortion correction, which is really quite cool because it shows that we're actually getting more of the photo with the PureRAW version. So that's PureRAW, that's the original RAW file. But all of the adjustments that I had applied in this photo are already being applied over here because of this whole drag and drop method. The metadata in Lightroom that says what adjustments to apply was actually sent over with it. So all the same adjustments are already here. Pretty cool. And this time, very curiously, this time it actually brought the crop over. If you watch my workflow demo, you'll see where I comment that it doesn't bring the crop. We don't know why. Apparently sometimes it does. You learn something every day. Point is, I don't have to do any more adjustments. Now I just have a better version of the photo. And let's compare them and see if there's a significant difference in here. So we'll do a side by side of these. Let's see, I want the raw on the left and this. Oops, oh, I have two selected. That's my problem. And drag that up. Come on, what am I doing wrong here? I cannot figure. Oh, I'm not in the develop module. That's why. Go to the develop module, genius, and let's bring the original raw on the left, the pure raw on the right, and let's see if there is a noticeable difference between these two. Probably, yeah, I'm not really seeing much on here. So this is the kind of photo where you'd go, all right, well, is it worth it? Maybe it is not worth it. Maybe you're not getting any real benefit from it. However, you are, it's worth pointing out, like I said, seeing more of the photo. In fact, let me remove the crop. Let's, yes, I know. Let's get rid of the crop on this. What are we doing? Crop, straighten, what do I want? Aspect ratio, there we go. As shot. Okay, so there's that. And let me do the same thing on this version of the photo. Go into crop, remove the crop, set this back to as shot. There we go. And done. And now as I toggle back and forth between them, why isn't it refreshing? Come on, Lightroom. Wow, Lightroom has suddenly decided to move super slow in here. There we go. Whew. Okay, there's the raw, the straight raw in Lightroom, and there's the pure raw. Man, Lightroom is going crazy slow. You can see if you look at the edges of the file that there's actually more photo in that version. My goodness, why is it going so slow? I'm gonna have to restart Lightroom, which is really cool. The lens correction that has been applied is actually revealing more data, image data that the camera captured, but Lightroom had decided to crop out because of the virtue of how it corrected the file. Very interesting. So there we go. Awesome. So that's how that whole workflow works. All right, and back to the chat. Any others? Let's see here. Is anybody submitting any other photos here? Got a bunch of stuff running. Maybe I should quit some other things in here. Let's quit a whole bunch of apps because this is just chunking my system down like crazy for some reason. Cannot imagine why. I might need that, I guess I need those things. So we're gonna leave it there. Let's see if it gets any better. Anyway, back to the Finder. Any new photos being dropped in? Ah, there is something new. Excellent. Jason has given me a regular raw file. Excellent, thank you. Oh, and another one. Super. Oh, there's a couple more. There's more coming in. Awesome. All right, then let's do this. Let's go back to PureRAW. And let's see here. There's a new one, so we're gonna grab that one and that one, that one, that one. Oh, Jason's getting busy. And those are all from Jason. Okay, drag and drop these in. Looks like we got a new camera, a Panasonic GH5 with the Olympus M Zuiko 14-42 lens. Cool lens. Let's download that. And again, that happens quite quickly there. There we go. And let's, I'm just going to go ahead and grab all of these and let it process all of them. So it'll take a little bit longer, but that'll just give me a chance to go back and chit chat a little bit more. So let's just look at only unprocessed photos. There we go. Select all of those, process those, all as default, and off we go. All right, while that's happening, we'll just leave that out of the way for a moment. Let's see here. Paul says, I'm looking for some I didn't shoot with my manual lenses. I know the feeling. I really love my manual lenses too. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I guess I can't use this for that. But yeah, it's shooting with manual lenses is definitely fun, isn't it? Sorry if I'm kind of out of it, guys. I am so tired. That's what happens when you're up until 2 o'clock in the morning dealing with this stuff, and then you get up again at 6. Oy vey. All right, up here it's processing. We can see it's almost done with all of those. Let's put that on the other side. That's a better place for it. Almost done with the last one. Super, and I'm just going to go ahead and take these straight over to Lightroom. I'm not going to bother looking at them here in PureRAW. What did I do? Did I hit the wrong button? Interesting. Let's try that again. So select, 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 and select, and export to Lightroom Classic. Yep, that's what I want to do. Oh shoot, I forgot to select the originals as well. Let me see here. Let me do this. Let me select both folders and add the originals to the selection now. So that would be, let's see here. What am I looking for? I'm looking for this one, that raw, that raw, that raw, and that raw. Okay, so now we got all of them in, correct? Yes, correct. Import those. And off we go. All right. I just want to see what these are since I haven't looked at the metadata here. This one is ISO 1250 on a GH5. Okay. This one is ISO 100 on a GH5. So this one, oh, but it's on a very wide angle lens. Okay, that's awesome. So actually, we're going to start with that one because that'll be a really cool example to see. So there's the original, and there's the one out of PureRAW. So quite a lot more data that we're getting out of that. That's cool. Still seeing quite a bit of blurring around the edges. There's less vignetting. Oh, here's interesting. Look at the vignetting. So this part of the photo here on the front of the boat, we see there's vignetting, meaning darkening there. And you can see where the end of the boat is. If I go out to the next one, you'll see that vignetting is largely removed and we're seeing more of the photo there. Same thing on this side. Oh, wrong photo. Same thing on this side. You actually see an extra word after boat here. Keep going the wrong way. As I toggle back and forth between these. So quite a difference in there. So that's a great example. Let's go look at that higher ISO version, higher ISO photo. So there's the original. You have definitely quite a bit of noise on there. Let's just go straight into the develop module and do a compare and bring this one up next to it. Oh yeah, I mean, that's a huge difference. Look at that. That is remarkable. Look at this. That is a fantastic example. Very, very good. Look at the noise on the coat here. I mean, this is super clean on the left. That is so cool. Excellent. Love that. Okay, let's look at this photo next and compare it to this one. What have we got going here? On the right, see what was the metadata on this photo. Let's go to library mode. Man, this is just, it's so funny how this just really chunks down all of a sudden. This is ISO 200. This is not a high ISO file. It was also GH5, okay. And let's go back into that. Let's see, I'm looking for some good examples of what to compare. We're not really getting chromatic aberration on there. Let's look at the shadow detail. It's definitely a little bit cleaner on the left. This, I would say this might not be an example of one of the files that's going to benefit the most from this process. But there is, you can see here on the text on the signs, a little bit more detail. You know, this is the kind of photo where you go, is it worth it? Do I need to do that? Or do I just stick with the original raw file? Might not be a huge advantage, and that's okay. You know, not every photo needs to go through PureRAW. Okay, yeah, not a massive difference in between those two. Let's go to this file next. What do we got here? Let's drag this up and zoom that out. So What are we seeing in here? Okay, again, quite a bit of additional distortion correction. Look at the left side of the photo. We see two buildings and the left one's being cropped off. Over here on the left side, there's a lot more to the photo there. So that's pretty significant. That's a pretty significant difference. Awesome. Very cool. Very cool differences in there. Excellent. All right. Let's pull out of that and let's see what's going on in the chat. Anyone else chatting? It's a very quiet room today. Not a whole lot of you here today live, but that's okay. That is okay. All right, I'm going to wrap this up pretty soon. If you have any other questions about this, drop them into the chat now. Let's get those up. If somebody gets another file in for me in the next couple of moments, I will pull that up. But otherwise, let me look back in the folder. Oh, Tim sent another one. Okay, Tim sent two more. All right, fine. Well, let's look at those as well then. All right, back over to PureRAW. And I keep forgetting to change my preset to move that by default to the other side. Take these two in. Take these two in. There we go. These are a Canon Rebel with a 18 to 55 millimeter lens. All right, cool. So this is good. That's a kit lens, 3.5 to 5.6. That's a kit lens. So this is probably a good example because it's not going to be a very good quality lens to begin with. Sorry. What? Not right now. Go do iReady. I'll be out in a couple minutes. Go. My little monkey. All right. Where was it? Oh yeah. Which photos did I just bring in? They are, here we go. There's that one. What was the other one? Oh, I already saw that one. Sorry. That one I had already brought it. So this is the new one. Excellent. So this is the new photo. Okay, let's, oh, that's it's a little overexposed. A lot going on. Okay, cool. Yeah, let's see what this does. So with that photo selected, we're going to process that, leave it all at the default settings, and let's see what we've got. Last chance to get a new one in. Otherwise, this is going to be the last one. And also, of course, if you have any questions, drop those in. If you do decide you want to make a purchase today on this, I do have a link, an affiliate link down below. I would appreciate you using that. Also down below is the link to the full workflow video that I released earlier this morning. Definitely want to check that out. All right, let's just take this straight into Lightroom with the original as well. Export. And there we go. Those two are selected. Import that. And here we go. So we've already seen, wow, that's a pretty remarkable difference already. I guess in here, there's not quite as huge of a difference as it was with the untreated. But anyway, let's take a look at this up close. We'll go to Develop Module, bring these two up side by side, and let's see what we're getting in here. I'm looking for a good example of something to compare. And we definitely have more color on the left, but we could always goose the color pretty easily. Not a whole lot, not really a difference in chromatic aberration. We're not really getting much in here to begin with. Let's look at the detail in the water. I mean, a little bit more contrast on the left for sure. You can see there is a little bit of noise on the right-hand side that is gone. Nothing egregious. Let's zoom out of these and compare them side by side. Are we getting a significant distortion difference? We're actually not. That's interesting. So this is not a huge difference between these two files. Definitely a little bit better color on the right, on the left, but I don't think that's anything we couldn't goose with a little bit of saturation. Yeah, I mean, just a little bit of saturation fixes that. Let's go back into the shadow areas here. Yeah, there's a bit more detail on, say, the tree trunk in there than there is on the right. There is a little bit of noise in the shadow detail here. Nothing terrible. Oh, better highlight. So we have a nicer highlight recovery on the left. Yeah. I mean, this is a marginal difference. I wouldn't say this is a huge difference, but it's a marginal one. So, you know, sometimes you get really big differences. Sometimes you get minor differences. All right. Any other photos magically show up? They have not. All right. We're going to wrap this thing up. Yeah, we're going to wrap this thing up. Sorry for the kind of distorted live show, but it is what it is today. That's what happens when you only have a couple hours sleep. And I didn't even get a second cup of coffee this morning, which is definitely not helping the situation. Any additional questions come in? They have not. All right, guys. Hey, thanks for tuning in for this. That was kind of fun to play with your photos. Who was asking, whoever was asking me for the other raw file, if you haven't already sent me a tweet, a DM on Twitter, do that. I will gladly send you that processed file. And yeah, I guess that's it. Thanks a bunch, everybody. We'll see you next time, whenever that is, sometime next week. Bye. I'm going to go take a nap.